Alrighty, Mr. Gatekeeper here. We have a 2 driving 6 here, which you can tell it's definitely has had its use already. It appears to be somewhat of an older amplifier. It's definitely had some good use out of it already. You can usually tell this just due to the amount of dust in it and corrosion on the board. This thing's been in some probably quite a few years worth of usage. It says it's a Duck Stamper on the front of it. I have no idea who built the amp. I can tell you one thing. It recently had a relay switch out in it. The reason why I know this, because this type of relay that's in here is a relay that's just recently came available at a good price to us, that a lot of builders are using now because they are very cheap and pretty dang good quality relays. But basically a buddy of mine, local buddy of mine, dropped this off with me not too long ago, and basically said that I think he had got it out of a trade or purchased it or something, and it was supposed to be working, and the only thing he said is it was not even keying, which I have already checked that out, and he is right. It's not keying. I don't know if someone maybe switched this relay out, and there's a possibility that they never even got it working again. I've already examined it, and you know, there's quite a few things in here I don't agree with, as some of y'all could probably just look in here and tell. But I'm not going to try to get in here and do an insane rebuild. I know he's needing it back pretty quickly to run in his mobile. He don't have nothing to run in his mobile, I don't believe, at the moment. And he's wanting to run this in there. There's no resistors on the output combiner here. Sometimes that's a bad indication that maybe there's been an imbalance and they couldn't get it balanced out, so they just took the resistors off. But that's just a possibility. That doesn't exactly mean there is an imbalance. It's just an indication that that is a possibility. Now, one thing I did notice I wasn't too happy about is this. The pad that this output combiner is soldered to down there is not stable. That's not a good thing. It appears that they have put multiple ceramic disc caps for the output loading capacitor, tuning capacitor, and that a few of these caps appear that they have actually blown. Let's see if I can't zoom in here and show you. There we go. So that's what a ceramic disc looks like when it's blown. There's literally been a hole that's blown through this one right here. It appears they've had the 175. That might be an indication of what these caps equal to, which that's a little high for the output tune of this. Usually they're a little lower than that for a port style amplifier. Looks like a few of these have got indications, like this one back here looks like it's got a little burn mark on it. But there's no reason to be putting all these caps together, really. I understand they probably all they had to use at a specific time, so I'll see if I can't retune the output, just make sure it's tuned good, and maybe see if I can't put a doorknob or at least a good high voltage ceramic that can handle the load. There's a couple of feedback resistors here too that's been hot. It's like it's sticking at some point in time. I can see there's some 10 ohms. All the 10 ohms look fine, but I can tell where some 10 ohms have blown. Like for example on this one right here, you can just see the boards indication of a resistor that's been blown there before. There's a lot of mismatched transistors on this thing. Yep, these two transistors right here are the same lot, and all four of these are different lots, I believe. Yeah, they're all different lots. The drivers are the same lot. Not too fond on them being 2879s. Appears what happens that somebody, because this circuit right here is built for two 2290s. It's a 4 and 3 wrap. Let's see what these caps are back down here. I can't quite see down there. I'm gonna turn my headlamp on there. There's 120s, but still it's wrapped. Well, look at that. See, I just look at this. I ran out of space there, but basically what had happened is just moving this silver dip mica right here. It's a cold solder joint, see? Just by moving it. So I'm gonna go through here. So there's just certain things you do when you find an amp like this that you can tell there's been some age on it. There's just certain procedures you do, really stuff you really need to do anyway, but I'm going to go through here. I'm going to check every joint on everything, just give everything a little tug, get down here and really examine. Look at my poor cat, she's trying to get in here. Hold on, baby, I'll come in there and let you in. See, she's lazy. All she got to do is walk around and come up under the garage door, because I always leave that garage door up enough. But that's how she is. She's spoiled. She's in now. She's alright. But anyway, so I'm gonna go through, check that. This circuit right here is supposed to be two 2290s right here. It's built for two 2290s. It looks like that maybe something's happened along the way and somebody's put two 2879s in here. I don't even know if I got two used 2290s laying around or not. I don't know, man. We're just gonna kind of roll with it. I mean, if anything, it's gonna turn it into kind of a high drive 2x6 to where you're gonna have to hit it harder. But I'm just gonna roll with it, man. There's a resistor blown too on this the 100 ohm resistor to ground on the pot is blown, and it's a 5 watts. Somebody's been driving it pretty dang hard for that to happen. There's some ceramic disc mixed with silver dip micas in the tuning circuit. I'm just going to have to recheck the whole tune of everything, because this part of the tune right here, the amp, you're not going to be able to see this part of the tune when just using a bird meter in front or behind. You can see results of it not being tuned properly, but to actually see what's going on in between these two sections, you've got to use a different method and just hooking it up. So I'm not too sure about that, especially being 2879s in there. But with an amp like this right here, it's hard for old Gatekeeper not to get in here and just get nuts with it. See, there's no pill strips in this amp. Somebody's etched it out. It's real dirty in between here and on some of the spots, to even see the traces where they're cut on a few, like for example in here, down in here. I'm gonna get down there and clean a little bit too, just so I can see what's going on. Probably touch up a few spots too, but you got a different cap on each one of these input transformers, and just looking at the naked eye, it looks like even one of them transformers are different than the other two. Not too sure what's up with that, but we'll get in here and see what we can do for you, bud. It's my buddy Mr. Baby Maker. Mr. Baby Maker's 2x6. So we'll get her up and rolling for you, man. Yeah, and the only other thing, is kind of unique is, I may have already mentioned this. I was talking a second ago after it quit recording. I didn't know it had quit recording, but somebody's put a high voltage ceramic tuner here, mica tuner, compression tuner, on the pass-through. I have never seen anybody do that. This is the first time I have ever seen anybody do that before. I don't know why they did that, honestly. It could be a possibility that maybe that's all they had. They didn't have a way to mic in the, they didn't have a way to mic it in. Maybe didn't have a capacitance meter or something, and they knew that it needed some tuning right here on the pass-through. This is just a pass-through tune, meaning if the box was turned off, the RF just flowing through the box. Sometimes certain relays will give you a little bit of an impedance mismatch just due to the internal parts of the relays, and sometimes you need to throw a little cap up on there, a small trimmer. I usually use like a 492, sometimes a 462 or 463 sometimes to tune it out. But somebody has thrown a 302 trimmer on here. To do that with. But heck, the way I look at it, if it works, I mean, it's definitely overkill for something like that, but if it works, as long as it ain't causing no problems, there ain't no need in changing it. That's the way I look at it. But there definitely are some things. And also, one more thing I do want to point out back here. This ain't cool, man. This is not cool at all. I don't agree with this. You got two different SO239s, but if you notice this, the reason why they had to do this, drill a different hole right here, is because at one point in time, I think somebody had a line section on the back of this. They had the actual line section mounted like that right there. They should have left the line section on there. They really should have. Because now you got somebody having to put another SO239 right here. Or somebody might have got this with the line section, didn't even know what the line section was, or didn't have a bird meter to use with it, and wanted to take it off. But yeah, that lines up with the bird line section, because they're a little bit bigger than regular panel mount SO239s. So I don't know about that right there. We'll figure it out, man. It's in good hands, man. I'll do my best. We'll get it working. Have a good one. We'll be back. Alright, I've got down in here and cleaned up all around the transistors real well. Because when a couple of irons have been in here off and on, you'll just get pretty much burnt flux all over everything. You can't really see everything that's going on. So that's one of the first things I like to do, is get down in there and clean all that flux out, so I can see 100% what's going on with the connections. And here's one I want to point out. And I've seen this numerous times along the last couple of years. Take a look at this transistor right here. Okay, look at the lead right there to the left. That lead right here has been cleaned with acetone already. Look how dark it is. Let me tell you why it's that dark and kind of charcoal, it seems. Because this lead right here is not soldered to ground well enough. When you have a tab like that isn't soldered to ground well enough, so I could take a pick right now, I guarantee you, lift up a little bit and that leg right there will pull straight up. It doesn't have a good enough solid ground, so every time it's been ran, it's been hot. And that's what happens when a connection doesn't have a solid connection to ground, but a connection just good enough to make ground, is it will run hot, just like a wire too small, you know, for a connection for the current to flow through. So now that I can see what's going on, I've already went through here and touched up a couple of the spots on the collectors and the bases. I'm gonna go through now on every emitter and solder them down a little better, as you can see here. And this is due to transistors being took out and changed, and people probably didn't have real hot irons. Probably, you know, soldering irons from Walmart. Usually, you know, a lot of people run up to the store when they need to make a repair. They don't have an iron or whatever, and a lot of times those irons from Walmart are, you know, 30-watt irons, and you need you at least a good 60-watt iron to get in here and do some good connections. So I went ahead and took the caps off, the output loading caps, tuning caps, whatever you want to look at. You got that one right there. It's been blown through already. That's got a spot on it. I think there's 3 of them. That one's got a spot on it. So I'm gonna go ahead, and what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and put, well, first I'm gonna stabilize this right here. I'm gonna clean the board right here so that I can mount this down. I'm gonna go ahead and put a trimmer on the output, and I'm going to bypass the 2 transistor section, and so I can hook up just the 6 transistor section and take a look at that alone, and retune if need be. The tune may be perfectly fine. I don't like this idea of having a 27 ohm resistor right here on the output of this to there. It's going to blow that resistor. I mean, 27 ohms on the output, 2 2879s, that's definitely going to be coming off, because that's just going to get hot and pop. I'd probably guess that's probably been put on very recently. I know you wanted a remote. I remember this is wired up backwards. This right here is wired up to the ring, and that's wired up to the tip. That needs to be reversed, and I'll run a wire from down to the board for the ground. And we'll see if we can get this thing running, man. Oh, I've got the keying circuit fixed. There was a cold solder joint on the keying circuit. But don't worry, brother, even if that keying circuit was working, this box would not have been working correctly. By no means. By no means. Alright, we'll be back. Alrighty, I got this thing working. It's not working real well. Basically, I'm just running the bench radio directly into the 6-pill section using a leader line right here, and I've tuned it all out, and I'm just getting about 300 peak watts. Normally, on a 6-pill ported design, that, sorry about that, somebody called, knocked me off. Well, anyway, I see why they had no resistors on the output combiner, because they are getting blistering hot just hitting it with a 4-watt radio. And the main reason that is, there's not just one of the resistors getting hot, they're all equally getting hot. If there was just one getting hot, that would just indicate that there's an issue with one of the 2-pill sections. But since they're all getting hot, that means the RF is being held back, and it's not being pushed all the way through the port. That's the way I look at it. And 9 times out of 10, this is due to this port combiner not having enough inductance. So I'm going to take the combiner out and switch it with another one. I'm trying my hardest not to get crazy with it, like taking these 5/8 core transformers out and doing my design, the design that I do, because I know the design that I do works very, very well, very, very well for me. And I'm just kind of trying to go through here and just make this thing work the best I can. I may even go through here and start checking some of these capacitors if this doesn't do the trick. But basically, if this was working the way it's supposed to be working, it should be doing at least 100 bird and over 500 watts peak, or at least near 500 watts peak on my meter. It's only doing about 300 right now, and these resistors are getting blistering hot. And that's just with a radio hitting it. So if you hit it with a driver, they're going to burn very quickly. So I've ran into this issue a few times with this type of design. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and take this port off. I'm going to measure it just for the heck of it. My guess is it's 61 material. It looks like 61 material just looking at it. But I'm going to get some more higher permeability ferrite and replace the port combiner, and hopefully that will do the trick, I'm hoping. And because right now it is tuning pretty high on the output, so something's different here. I mean, it could be the transformers. I've never done a port combine amp using 5/8 core transformers, but I doubt. I'm thinking it's probably got something to do with the port. So all right, we'll be back. All right, brother, we got the new combiner on there. Here's the old one. Okay, this didn't have enough inductance. This type of ferrite material right here gives about triple the amount of inductance, and take a look at it now. 500 watt slug. We're just looking at the peak right now, just hitting it with the 4-watt radio. Oh, now that's what a 6-pill ported design is supposed to do on my bench when it's working right. And now these right here, the so-called balancing resistors, they're not, I like to call them telltale resistors, let you know if something's wrong. They are not warming up now. So now we're in the right track now. And another thing, this is a different wrap style than what I normally do mine. This is a 3-and-3. The way I normally do these boxes is a 4-and-4. I'm just going to roll with it with this type of wrap style. I did notice doing it with this type of wrap style, it does need a little bit more capacitance on the output and on the input as well, a little bit more capacitance. So all right, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get these trimmers mic'd in, and then incorporate the 2 transistor section into this. Or actually, I think what I'm going to do is hook this 2 transistor section up by itself and check the tune on it, because there's a ceramic disc. I just really don't like using ceramic discs in tuning sections. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Low voltage ceramic disc, shall I say. Now, there's nothing wrong with using some high voltage ceramic disc, which I may actually be using for your output load here in a minute, since this is looks like it's going to be somewhere around 180 to 200 picos. But so I'm probably just going to at least touch up, just check the tune. Going to take this resistor out right here for sure. That's just going to burn on you. 27 ohms, a bit too much with the amount of power this driver section can make going through that. So, all right, so hopefully when I come back, this thing will be ready to rock and roll. We'll be back. Whew, I'll tell you what, man, I do not know if I have actually had this much trouble getting an amplifier tuned before, ever. I probably at least spent at least an hour to an hour and a half, maybe longer, on each tuning section. I don't know what was going on with it. I don't know if it had something to do with my meter, which I changed my batteries in my meter. I double checked it, triple checked it. It's just one of them things, man. Sometimes you just can't explain it. But for example, I got the output tuned out there, and as soon as I take the trimmer out, mic it in, it's not where it was at. So I have to get in here and do some manual tuning, trying out different capacitors on the fly, which I normally don't really have to do. Every once in a while I may have to do that on the input tune. But I had to do that on every single tuning section in the whole amp. I had to do it on the output right here, the input right here, which the input was good to go, believe it or not. In between the input of the 6, the output, we got this bad boy all together now, man. Like I said, I hooked up the 2 transistor section. I'm just going to leave it the wrap style that it is, although it's pretty much wrapped for 220, 290s. But honestly, if I re-wrap this right now for 22879s, it's probably going to dump at least 100 to 150 more watts into the 6-pill. I don't really want to do that. That's going to be overdriving the 6-pill. You're already risking overdriving if you use too big of a radio. But got her all together, man, and she is working great. The reflect is awesome. The input tune is awesome. All the RF is making it out of the box. These resistors are staying cool as a cucumber, and that's what you want. And that's always the main thing whenever you get a box like this or any type of combining where resistors are supposed to be on the combiner. Now the combiner is what you really want to look at. Splitters, you don't actually have to have them on splitters, but it's just one of them extra safety things that we still like to do. But if you have a box that does not have these resistors, 100 ohm resistors, black, brown, oh, before I forget, I need to correct myself on something. Earlier in the video, I was calling this a 27 ohm resistor. Once I got in here and took it out and saw that the third ring was actually a gold, and see that this resistor's already been pretty hot, but once I saw that was a gold, this is a 2.7 ohm resistor, so that's fine. But anyway, the tuning did change pretty much everywhere just because of this right here, and me having to replace the output combiner. So I went ahead and replaced that 2.7 with two 4.7s right here, as you can see. So now you got silver dip micas for the tuning. You got these two right here. And like I said, I had to get in here and do some manual tuning to get it to where it really was at when I had the trimmer in there. You got the third tuning cap for the in-between right here. So that's one thing I found out. It looks like when you do go with a 3 and 3 on this type of style, that it does need a bit more capacitance, no doubt about it. But she's working, man. I'm about to go get my butt in the bed. I probably spent about 4.5 hours just tuning. 4.5, 5 hours just tuning this thing, getting it to where it needs to be. I think I'm going to change the configuration of the variable. The way they've got the variable hooked up is they've got a 100 ohm resistor right here going across both pads, which is changing this variable to a 50 ohm resistor. Then you got another 100 right here creating a voltage divider circuit to ground, which is making it even smaller. So this variable is not really doing much. But we've got her hooked up just to the 100 amp supply right here, just hitting it with the bench radio. PEP, go over 1,000 watts. RMS. Come on now, focus. We're reading the bottom scale. Oh, right there about 400 bird. Oh, which is what you're going to be looking at, especially on that 100 amp supply. It's sucking it down to about 13.8 volts. Your input tune, 5 watt slug and reverse. Oh, beautiful. And as I want to show you, we have no padding on the input tune. No padding at all, which I know is a little bit unique, because for an amp like this you normally would put a little bit of padding on there, but I honestly have not seen a big reason to do it. I mean, the dead key is about 200 watts, but let's see what this variable will do. The variable turned down a little bit. Oh, so the variable's doing a little bit, but I'm thinking, I tell you what, man, phone just keeps turning off on me. All right, I've got the hot radio hooked up, so let's see how much bird we're getting out of it. 1,000-watt slug. Oh yeah. Right there, about 700 bird. And I say that is pretty good. Pretty good for the design that this is done in. I was hoping to at least be able to get 600 bird out of it. If I got in here and done a complete rebuild, I could make this thing do, 800 to 1,000 bird, no problem. But, you're talking about getting in here and just literally doing a rebuild. Taking these transformers out, rewrapping the whole thing, retuning the whole thing. It is what it is. I pretty much got in here, repaired the box, improved it a little bit, retuned everything. It's working as good as it's going to be working. Just hit it with the bench radio. It's doing over 1,000 watts, probably around 1,300 watts. You should have no problem getting 1,500 out of it, my friend. And I remember you telling me you was thinking about hitting it with a striker 955 or 655. You can't do that, man. This thing's got a driver in it, brother. And like I said, I was trying to make the best decision possible. Like I said, I could have rewrapped the driver section with it being two 2879s. If I had two 2290s laying around, I would just take these 2879s out, put two 2290s in. Because truthfully, you only need one 2879 to make a 6-pill do what it needs to do. Two 2290s, it definitely is going to make it do what it needs to do. But two 2879s, that's overboard. It really is overboard, if you ask me. So I decided just to leave the wrap pattern that's in here now. It's basically not letting these 2879s do the absolute max that they could be doing. And kind of just wanted to make it to where it was safe. You can tell this box is old. It's had its use, no doubt about it. And so I want it to be able to last for you, man. And so just don't drive it too hard, brother. And just monitor the heat and all that good stuff. And the only other thing I think I'm going to do before I put the top back on it is I think I'm going to come over here and basically take this resistor off of the variable right here, and just basically so you can have a little bit more control and give you about 100 ohms there, have a little bit more control. Plus I'm going to replace this resistor right here because you can tell it's been pretty dang hot. So other than that, man, that'll be it. I'll go ahead and get the top put on it. It's a pretty decent little fan that's on here. It should do the trick. I guess you could put a little bit stronger one on there, but probably gonna need to push them down too, make sure the fan don't hit them. I don't know who built it, but they say it's a duck stomper, so we'll see, baby maker, if it is a duck stomper. All right, man, appreciate your patience, brother. Glad to be able to get this thing up and working, retuned for you, and doing a good job for the way it's built. Mr. Gatekeeper out here around the northeast end of Georgia. I'm good and gone. Bye-bye.